Hello my friends, welcome to the Noobish Pilot, starting a new series on getting started with the Boeing 737 and Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024. So we're going to do a couple different videos. This one's going to be getting the airplane fired up just before engine start. We're not actually going to start the engines in this video, but I'm going to show you how to get everything turned on, all your electronics and everything ready to go, and basically get the aircraft ready for boarding. So when you load into the sim, the airplane is going to be in a cold and dark state. I am at a gate here. It doesn't look like there's a jetway, but I am at a gate. And we're loaded in here in the cold and dark, dry state. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove our covers here. So we're going to remove our pivot covers. Remove those. And, of course, remove the engine covers. Another thing you can do before you head out is start your pre-flight. So actually, I mean the trucks as well. So anything that you see with this blue dot, if you have the visual assistances turned on, if you're new to the flight sim, or things that you can actually check as part of your pre-flight. So in career mode, you may notice that your airline procedures, once you get far up in there, if you don't do your walkarounds and pre-flight inspections, those things, those scores tend to suffer. But again, anything with this on, you can go ahead and take a look, and you can also go as far as sticking your head up into the landing gear and taking a look at everything around there, which is pretty cool. But for now, we're going to go ahead and crawl out of here. Sometimes you get stuck. It's quite the treat. Let's see if I can get out of here. Probably not now. Okay, I cannot, so we're just going to press Shift C and enter the aircraft, enter the flight deck. So here we are in the flight deck, the Boeing 737. Everything is turned off. So I am going to show you now how to get everything basically fired up. We do also have, for those of you that were not aware, the checklists are now working within the sim. So if you go into your checklist, you can kind of see your pre-flight, preliminary pre-flight. This is kind of everything that we're going to be following here. It's just kind of going around, just starting. I'll kind of show you how to do these different things. If you're unsure where something is, what's nice is that if you click this Look At button, it actually shows you where at on the overhead panel or where at within the flight deck this is. So if you're unsure, you can always use that. It'll highlight up here in blue. So, of course, we're going to go ahead and flip on our battery. I'm going to see things are starting to come alive up here on the airplane. And we're also, again, you can click to look. We're going to set our standby power to, I leave this on auto. It says to turn it on. I just leave it on auto. I don't know why, so I'll always just check that. External power, we can go into our ATC window and request for the ground power unit if there is one available. Let's see, because, again, we are at a gate, but it's not showing us a jetway, so we can go ahead and request that power supply.
Baltimore ground, November 552 tree. 6, could you please send a ground power unit? November 552.
So there's a power unit coming to us, which is great. The aircraft is already seeing that there is ground power available, even though it's technically not yet, so you can go ahead and flip that guy on there. Check that. Your IRSs, which is going to be actually for your heads-up display, right up here. You'll want to flip those to nav, so you can come up here. They're all the way in the back there. You can flip that to nav. Again, check that off as well. You can also turn on your anti-collision lights. So those are going to be remaining off at this time. Again, that's kind of the airport lingo. I'll turn the position lights. That's kind of the airport lingo that if any ground crew see that they need to stand away from the aircraft, means it's going to move, the engine's going to be restarting up. So make sure you leave that turned on whenever you're going to be moving the airplane or anything of the sorts, and then you can make sure to leave that off whenever basically it is safe for the ground crew to approach the airplane. So we'll leave those off for now. We'll turn on our our engine hydraulic pumps, which are going to be up here. So they're already turned on when you come in. So those are already turned on. Great. Check that off the list. Turn off the engine hydraulic pumps. So again, this is kind of one of those things that doesn't really make sense to me. So it has us turn them on here and then turn them off down here. I just checked that. That's fine. Fuel pumps are all turned off, which is great. That's how it is when it's in cold and dark. Your trim air, again, click that. You can set that. It's going to be up here somewhere to on. It's already going to be set on. Isolation valve will be open. already open. The left and right recirculation fans will be set to auto. So those are up here already on auto, which is great. Engine bleed will be off. We will check our fuel, which again, we'll get further into that before we start up the engines, but just tells you to basically make sure your fuel is all loaded up. Your cruise altitude, you'll go ahead and set. We're going to worry about that once the next video comes out after we get a flight plan and everything. So for the sake of this, we're just going to go ahead and check this off now. And again, we'll get to that later. You can go ahead and set your fasten seatbelt signs to be auto or turned on. I always turn them on so when the passengers come aboard, they know that they need to fasten their seatbelts. The altimeter will set again once we get further into this series. And the aft fuel pumps. So the aft fuel pumps, if you are unaware, there is a little jet engine in the back of the airplane, which is right here. If you're ever in or at an airport or in an airplane, you hear a small buzzing sound. That's normally this is called the APU, the auxiliary power unit. So it's a mini jet engine in the back of the plane that does need to be on in order to help the engine start off once we get off of that ground power. So we'll go ahead and light up our aft. These are all forwards. You can see we have our centers. Aft is going to be right over here, so aft is back. Here's our main aft fuel pump. We'll turn that one on as well. And we can go ahead and fire up our APU. So you'll just click that down to the start position and to check and see if it's on. You'll come back out. You can, it should say the easiest way to check to see if it's turned on, especially if you're new. If you see over in here, you can see kind of like the distortion in the picture. It looks like that there is something being released from this area. That is the APU. So the APU is now turned on. We'll go ahead and arm our emergency exit lights again for when our passengers come aboard. And then again, this is not going to have any bearing on your flight, but just to make it a little bit more realistic, we'll go ahead and obviously turn on our cabin utilities and IFE passenger supplies. One other thing I will say, if you are starting in night mode or you are flying at night, a lot of these things, for example, up here, our power indicator should have numbers written on them, as well as our flight altitude selector, our landing altitude selector. So if you come up to this main panel here, right kind of in the middle, you'll see where you can turn up that brightness, and as you turn that up, you can see our displays up here starting to come up. Again, not realistic. Those should automatically turn on. The panels lighting should not have anything to do with this, especially. That should just fire up, but again, it is a simulator after all. And another thing you'll want to double check down here as well, if you go down your radio panel, you can see that although the electronics are all turned on, we don't see any of our frequencies. So if you come back here, you might have to come over the seat a little bit and you crank this up, you'll start to see the frequencies and everything come up there. So I have seen on a bunch of different forums and stuff that folks are getting in their airplanes and they can't find what channel they're on or so on and so forth because everything is so dark. Well, that is how you resolve that. So at this time, we are ready to board, so you can go ahead and connect the jetway. Again, it could do that through the ATC window, or in this case, I have GSX, but I don't have a jetway here with me right now, so we'll go ahead and just skip on that part. But again, the airplane is ready for boarding. Next up, we will go over creating a flight plan in SimBrief and getting it into the FMC. Would appreciate it if you hit that subscribe button. It's free to do so. We are a new channel here, so I'd appreciate any support, any comments, leave down below, and as always, safe travel.